We're going. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
All right. Good morning, man. How are you?
Good, how are you? What's going on?
Good,
What's
good.
new?
Nothing. I didn't realize I saw you with the pullover. Didn't realize that was a show off pullover.
Yeah, I had to, not a big deal.
Yeah,
It was marathon week. You know, Catapano ran the marathon.
I didn't know that. 2018 was a long time ago, though.
It was a long time ago. Oh, is that a little shot? Ancient history? I ran Chicago in between here and then, or then and now.
Yeah, I guess so. There's a lot I could do in 2018 that I can't do now.
Yeah, that's true. Drinking, not have a hangover.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yeah, Catapano had a good time. He did sub 4 by a lot.
Yeah, wow, good for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I knew he was kind of getting into the active workouts. I didn't know he was doing marathon.
Yeah. When's your marathon? When's that one coming out?
I am so against running those types of things. On Thanksgiving, I purposely avoid, and I've avoided this every year, running in like the 5K turkey trot.
Yeah, turkey shots.
And instead, I meet 5 people who are running in my family at the bar. So I go to the bar, they run 5K, and then they meet me at the bar.
All right. So this turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning.
Yes.
That's an aggressive start to the day. It's a big day.
Great start to the day. It really is. I wouldn't trade it. But yeah, instead of running a simple little 5K to warm up for Thanksgiving food, I go to the bar.
Now, I'm sure some people at that establishment let the day get away from themselves, and then like, holy smokes, I gotta put the turkey in.
Yeah, you kind of see like real drinkers if you stay at that place a little too long.
It's a family day, and it's catching up till. I mean,
I do think they close. I think they close the bar. What time? I think they close the bar at like 2, like 1:30 or 2. I think they close up a little early. But yeah, there's probably some people who don't want to leave.
Yeah, not great, but what are you gonna do? Everyone's got something to be thankful for.
It's a good tradition for me.
Yeah, I think what I think is kind of cool is now like the trail running and like rucking, like the weighted rucks is kind of cool because it's like low impact and it's like a little bit of a cardio. Michael Easter wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis.
About just the impact on knees and legs and stuff.
He kind of just goes over like a lot of stuff, like just like how we can make life how life is so easy and how you can make it more difficult beneficially for you.
Oh.
One of his things is like rucking. Like humans are the best at carrying weight over long distances.
We are the best at it.
Yeah, well, animals can't. How do they carry stuff? It's either in their mouth or in their paws or in their.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I could slap a backpack on a mule and they could do a whole lot better than me. But I see what you're saying. You mean having to do it themselves?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. You want to get into Casino Royale?
Yeah, excited to.
Ian Fleming, published in 1953. Quick synopsis. Casino Royale is the first novel in Ian Fleming's James Bond series. The story follows 007 as he's assigned by MI6 to bankrupt Le Chiffre, a financier for Soviet-backed terror organizations, at the baccarat tables of the Casino Royale in northern France. The novel explores themes of espionage, loyalty, and betrayal, ultimately revealing the complexities of Bond's character and setting the stage for his future adventures.
Yeah, that's a solid synopsis and an awesome book.
If someone's talking to me about this book, first thing comes out of my mouth, fun read.
Yep, super fun, quick, short.
It's 200 pages, maybe?
Say that again?
200 pages?
Yeah, roughly 2 quick pages. Story flows. They split up in chapters. There's no like drag-ons. There's no time in between action and plot. It's just it all rolls. It was all good.
It's so enjoyable. The pacing. This might be the best paced book we've read
so far. Yes.
Yeah, so far.
Absolutely, yes.
I didn't come into it with actually high expectations because this is the oldest book in terms of publishing that we read, written in 1953. I felt it could be a little dated. It was a little dated, just in terms of I would say like the modernity of it, but other than that, it was so fun to read, and it was like lighthearted.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you read that book, whether it's 1953 or even now, to be honest with you, if you're a young guy, if you're a middle-aged dad, whatever, if you're a middle-aged dad, older guy, you want to be James Bond, right?
Yeah.
Like that's at least what I took away from that is like sign me up to be a secret agent. Guy loves food, he loves drinking, and he's really good at gambling. Like sign me up for that.
You forgot about one thing that he loves women.
Of course.
Yeah.
That was even like subtly done, I would say. Like they've talked about it a little bit more, but there's nothing with Moneypenny yet, no like real flirtation yet. It was less of a flirtation and more of a I am man and this is what I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Which is 1950s, like he's macho man. Like, yeah, he is the man.
I would say like flirtation, kind of like you play with the line a little bit. No, James Bond just sees the line and walks through it and keeps on going.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I am determined in my conquest.
Yeah, no, such a cool introduction to the character. I thought that if you were going to not I mean the book could have been longer, I would say also. Not that they rushed through anything.
The movie certainly adds things.
Correct. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah, the movie has cool things, but they added a whole lot that wasn't in the book.
You're used to books or movies taking away sections from books and taking away kind of side quests or side plots from books. The movie certainly adds it.
Yes.
And actually, the movie stayed pretty loyal to the overall narrative of the book, which I was surprised by.
Yeah, I think the movie probably took some things from other books. If we were to continue reading, we'd probably see a couple more things that the movie took. But for this first book, I mean, imagine this being your first book that you wrote and published.
Yeah.
Like, just have this idea of James Bond.
It's a home run.
It's just an absolute home run first book. You've left everything up in the air so you can take it whatever direction that you want. You ended it in such a perfect way that makes you have seen Bond in I don't want to give it all away, but you see Bond in like one shape and form, and then it's so dark, I guess you could say, just the finishing of the book, that it sets you up for all the other ones that you're excited for.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll get into spoilers. But does James Bond fire a gun in this book?
Wow. I'm going to say no off the cuff. Unless when he's driving his car, he tries. I'm going to say only in the car chase scene was there a chance that he did.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
No.
I was kind of making my notes for it yesterday.
That would be the only scene where they potentially said he might have done so, but I don't recall specifically him firing a gun. But that is James Bond. I mean, he is less of like Rock'em Sock'em and more of a espionage, more of a spy, more behind the scenes.
Yeah, I also, do you know anything about Baccarat?
I didn't leading up into this.
No.
Yeah, I've heard of it, seen it before. It is a lot like blackjack, but no, I didn't know anything about it.
It seems like a ton of luck.
Yeah, like most casino games.
I think poker, in the movie they play poker.
In the movie they play poker, yeah.
But it's like you try and get to the number 9.
We're talking about the Daniel Craig movie also, by the way. There is like an original with Sean Connery.
Is that Casino Royale?
No, but it picks up like the same things. Like one thing in particular I can think of is there's a scene in that first James Bond movie. I think that one was Dr. No.
Yeah, it is.
Like checking in his hotel room.
Yep.
And he's like, looking for the little things that were out of place and stuff like that. That's one of the things that was in my mind. So they kind of took pieces from that and made that first movie. But when I was reading this book, I was thinking Sean Connery the whole way. I wasn't thinking Daniel Craig.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. These 1950s. It's just like, yeah. Because I think that movie was made in the 1960s, maybe late 50s, early 60s. So I was thinking Sean Connery.
So speaking of Sean Connery, I don't think I've seen one Sean Connery James Bond movie.
I went down a long list of them in COVID. I think I did the whole series during COVID.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was just like come home, watch 2 James Bond movies,
Stay in your apartment.
catch up on some reading, and go to bed. Yeah.
So those are a little cheesier, right? Than the
Sure. Yeah, you could say cheesy,
okay.
but not painfully so, which a lot of old time movies are. If you watch them now, they were still good. They hold up pretty good.
That leads me to my next point. I was talking with my dad about how I just finished this book. Do you find this book cheesy? And was it intentionally so? Both the book and the movie, were they intentionally so cheesy, or is that just the era in which they were created?
I wouldn't say cheesy. I would say like that's their take on some humor.
Okay.
Maybe some sarcastic humor, I guess you could say. When I think of cheesy, I think of like Austin Powers as James Bond.
That again leads me to my next point. I had a little bit of Austin Powers.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. Yeah.
Austin Powers is obviously the spoof on James Bond.
Yeah, but that's the cheesy part of it that I could see. No, I wouldn't take anything from this as being cheesy. What specifically was there a specific scene or part that you thought was like, this is a little corny, a little cheesy?
Yeah, I'll read it quick. These blithering women who thought they could do a man's work. Why the hell couldn't they stay at home and mind their pots and pans and stick to their frocks and gossip and leave men's work to men?
So that's not cheesy. That's just James Bond.
That's incredible. What an incredible line.
It really is. I know. And like he's saying that basically like to himself after he gets an assignment.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that to me, that's not cheesy. That's just James Bond.
I know, but like that's also Austin Powers could deliver that one.
Yeah, okay. All right,
yeah,
I can see that. But no, I think when the writer wrote that, I think he was dead serious. We're in 1953. I think he was absolutely like dead serious. Like, why isn't she in the kitchen? Like you could say things and get away with it then.
It was just like you read that in 2024 and you're just like, you have to smile. It's ridiculous, but again, I don't want to. It's fun ridiculous. Like that's how this whole.
Yeah, all right, you could say that. Yeah, ridiculous in modern times.
Yeah,
but I think the writer is dead serious when he wrote that.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think the cheese has been baked into the cake.
Yeah. But yeah, the part of him talking about, I think that's also different too because so they talk about him talking about food, talking about alcohol, being very particular, talking about clothes, complimenting her clothes. This is not like your World War II hero. This is not a guy, jumping in the trenches, big tough guy, blue collar. I think James Bond is a new character, new type of hero because he's more is the word metrosexual? Maybe it's metrosexual. Right? Cares about particulars and dressing up and stuff like that.
I would actually say not so much metro.
Maybe that's the wrong word.
No. I know what you're getting at. It's I think I would assume this line of work attracts a certain type of guy who's very meticulous.
Yeah.
And he's very meticulous. Like you said earlier, when he goes around the hotel room, see if anything's at place, he puts like a piece of hair over a drawer to make sure it doesn't get pulled out, stuff like that. But I was surprised how much the CIA agent, the Felix Leiter, who's played by Jeffrey Wright, I think.
Yeah,
that's the actor's name.
Did a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
he was in it, and so with Vesper Lind. Yeah. It parallels the movie pretty closely with both their plots, like almost lines of dialogue in the movie.
If you take the movie from like you subtract everything from basically start to finish and you start with the casino part, it tracks the movie really well.
Yeah, and even the so I guess we'll get into a little bit of spoilers. If you've seen the movie, the book is more or less spoiled for you.
seen the movie? Oh, totally.
right?
Yeah.
Other than, I guess in the movie they go to some like location switch up a little bit, and there's a
The other thing
couple.
with the movie also that's a bit different, or at least shown out more, is Mathis's character.
You say Mathis is more in the movie or in the book?
No, so in the movie he becomes a
The
like a
villain?
villain. Yeah,
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, he's like the end. Yeah, but the whole torture scene with the wicker chair,
Yeah.
that's in the book. That's
Yeah.
his recovery is in the book. His
Yes.
recovery from the incident is in the book,
Yeah. And
which
that's
is
a
also
that's a big part of it. Like we're reading a pretty significant amount about his recovery and time spent in that. I think it was 3 weeks, he said.
yeah. Well, they don't leave France. They get like a place on the
Yeah, he
beach in
gets a
France.
place 3 weeks and he recovers there. Yeah, no, it was. And what was interesting about that recovery specifically also is they kind of get. So in the movie, he talks about resigning,
Yes, he sends that email from the ship in Venice.
but the resignation is more all about the girl. This
Yep.
resignation, yeah, part had to do with the girl, but part was just that whole like chapter about his like psychology, about good guys versus bad guys, and are we actually the good guys and the bad guys? That they didn't get in the movie. Like, how could you? That
Yeah.
was pretty cool in the book. That he was actually like confused about the psychology of who's the good guys and who's the bad guys.
Yeah, that was an interesting takeaway because I was reading some things about what this book meant in terms of geopolitics in the 50s when obviously the US and Russia was ascending and Britain was trying to ceding the center stage, and how this was kind of was speaking to what are good guys, what are bad guys, what is Britain's role to play, and this book almost gave Britain a sense of identity and national spirit to continue to be like a world player, which is super interesting that a work of fiction could inspire a nation and kind of give them, hey, we're still the bad guys, and how much Felix Leiter, the U.S. CIA agent, defers to James Bond.
Yeah, yeah. Besides having the bankroll, yeah.
Yeah, and Ian Fleming was in the British Naval Intelligence Division, which so he probably has some, he's patriotic pride in doing that, and he wants to see his nation be as influential as possible.
As I said before, it's such a great character after the heroes of World War II, after fighting in tanks with M1 rifles and Cromwell tanks. You have James Bond.
Yes,
It's
smaller scale, more personal.
That every kid probably wants to be, and every guy wanted to be.
Yeah, no one can be a bomber jet, but you can be the guy sitting down from the other side of a table from the villain, and so you can outwit him.
Yeah, and you could sign me up for that.
And then a couple other things. I was in the torture scene. I thought this was so interesting, and I didn't catch it when I read it, but I was reading about the book that the Russian agent who kills the chief at the torture scene, just like in the movie, they brand the Russian symbol for spy on James Bond's hand, so that all Russian intelligence agents can identify Bond as a spy going forward.
Yeah, and the way they described it, it was some type of M, like a strange M.
It's the Russian alphabet, like Cyrillic, or I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I didn't actually look up a picture of what that actually is. I feel like that has more significance, or like comes up in the movies more. I think we'll see that because they referred as the bad guy organization throughout this as SMERSH.
Yeah, and it's Spectre in the movies, right?
I think somehow it turned in the books. I think somehow SMERSH becomes Spectre eventually.
Yeah.
So it would be because if that symbol had something to do with that. But that
branding.
Oh. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Like that symbol is actually the symbol for Spectre.
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting. And then, would there be anything better than killing the bad guy, beating him at the table, and then enjoying a nice little week on the French coastline with your honey?
Yeah. And I think they were saying they made it seem that the money was like his. I mean, they didn't really talk about him immediately giving it back either.
Yeah.
So he's like come away with some money too. Yeah, I could see that being pretty solid. You think, yeah, you went from point of no return, like this is my last stop, to having a nice little French island coast vacation, even though your manhood has been pulverized.
Pulverized is the exact right word for it. But he recovers. James Bond always does. He bounces back.
That was a specifically like creative and impressive torture scene. Like if you're thinking of a torture scene, you could really think of like anything, right? You could be creative. That was a very creative, specific torture scene to get into like the heart of all right, what like James Bond's not afraid of death, right? He's probably been like taught how to deal with interrogation and things like that, but he is a man's man. And so if you threaten to take that away, does he crack? Does he break?
That's why I'm so surprised you picture Sean Connery while reading this book. Because this book has a lot of beats of the Daniel Craig movie.
So that part particular, you have to think of the Daniel Craig scene.
Oh, it's maybe the best scene of the entire movie.
It kind of is, but actually now that you think of it, when you say like not cheesy, but that when he's just like the Daniel Craig scene.
Yeah.
No, to the left. To the left. I was thinking about that when I was reading it, but no, I still think it's Sean Connery. Except that scene. I'll give you that. That scene not.
Yeah, that scene you're like, all right, I know, like let's, because you don't know if that's just made for the movies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes up, you're like, I am not moving from this chair. I'm reading this entire chapter. Like, let's do it. Let's lock in for this.
Le Chiffre, character held up in the book.
Yeah.
Again, kind of from that psychology piece, he wasn't necessarily like evil. Like you don't really get that he's funding terrorism and all that kind of stuff. You just kind of know he's in a hole and he's a banker for this organization. But I think that was kind of part of it where they didn't make him too evil. He was just more of like competition.
Yeah, he's kind of in and out through the book. You don't get any POV from Le Chiffre's point of view. I mean, you basically just meet him when James Bond's at the baccarat tables.
Yeah, they do in like the early scenes. They kind of run through the dossier on him.
Yeah.
So you introduce a little bit there.
They give like, hey, the background. This is who your target is.
Yeah, you're on this guy. Yeah, but you don't meet him until the casino.
Yeah, he was a good book one introduction. I would assume when you're writing a character and starting a series off, you want to really establish the protagonist. And you want to.
Plus, good point. Because I like when that happens where the first bad guy isn't like the ongoing bad guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like this book finished and end with James Bond being the bad guy and then moving on. And Smersh is like off in the distance somewhere. But I like that this book wasn't all about Smersh. It wasn't all about the Russian agency.
I think it's the almost like picture perfect ideal setup where you get one of the mid-level villains.
Yeah.
And then you get a hint of the larger organization and you establish the protagonist who's beating the first guy. You know the guy you're rooting for can beat this guy. Can he beat the larger organization in forthcoming books? And I think you've seen it in like TV shows and movies, how that kind of, for some reason, like Breaking Bad popped into my head where you see Tuco in the first season. You go a bigger one. There's a larger organization with Gus and everyone. Like that's kind of how fiction is almost ideally structured in that sense.
Yeah, it definitely sets the stage going forward. Again, for his next book, you could go whatever way you wanted in the next book, and the next book after that, and the next book after that. He really set himself up to be able to write about James Bond doing many different things.
Have you read any other James Bond books?
No, let's add it.
Yeah. So here's the conundrum. If when this works, when we do more and more of these, would you want to do like a string of 8 weeks of James Bond books?
Ooh, that's interesting. Nah. 8? Nah. 3?
So you do, hey, let's do books 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Mix it up. Come back later. 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Because all these, you know, Jack Carr, Ian Fleming, Nelson DeMille, Lee Child, all these, obviously, Tom Clancy with Jack Ryan, have established protagonists who they followed the series of.
Yeah.
So you could do a lot of like, hey, we're going to bang out a string of these books.
Yeah.
Or you could do, hey, we're going to do this section, then this section.
Well,
Maybe
of
see
the,
which one's.
I think, so I haven't read the other James Bonds, but I would be wondering if you need to follow it or if you could bounce around a little bit more. I would guess you could bounce around, and you probably miss a few minor like details.
Yeah.
There's probably a few references to like the past in the
Yep.
future books, but I doubt you're missing all that much if you don't follow it, you know, in a straight line.
I think a lot of authors try and construct it where you could kind of bounce around, just like you said. And there's like, hey, his ex-girlfriend died. His ex-girlfriend died in Bulgaria in this mission. But you're like, okay, like if I read book 2, I would learn about that whole incident. But now maybe book 4, they're in Thailand, and I don't need to know about Bulgaria.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's not technically. Well, I guess it is a. Is it called the James Bond series?
I think they market it that way. I think he would describe it that way.
Yeah, I guess it's a series, but I wouldn't call it like a trilogy or anything like that.
No, it's not like Game of Thrones where it's like, hey, you need to learn.
Yeah. I definitely think we could do 2 or 3, especially if they're short. We could even throw 2 together if they're all like in the same 200-page realm, because this was a quick, easy read. I'm still I'm doing some books on the Kindle, some books physical.
Yeah. Picking
this one up from the library, like put it in my back pocket.
Oh, so nice.
It's like a thin little, it was.
Yeah, especially with our next book coming up, Plum Island's a little bit heftier.
It is, yeah.
All right, quick read, really enjoyable. You want to get into any final thoughts, or just want to give me your rating?
I mean, just final thoughts again was just this was a character that you want to be, right? Like a grown man is thinking to myself, you know what? Having martinis, gambling, smoking while saving your country with an unlimited bankroll is pretty cool.
Speaking of martinis, so you know he names his martini the Vesper.
Correct.
If you go into a nice, not obviously a dive bar, but if you go into a nice bar and you ask for a Vesper, do you think the bartender would know?
Oh yeah.
You think so?
Oh yeah. No, that he like made that cocktail. That cocktail is well known.
Okay, so like it's like obviously like a Manhattan, like a Sazerac, all these things. Tom Collins, they would know how to make it. And if you said I'll have a Vesper, they would know how to make it.
Yeah, Vesper Martini. I think they may have even noted it in like the front page of the book when I was. I looked it up because one of the ingredients they don't really make anymore. I think it's called Lillet. It's like a wine, and I don't think they make it the same way they used to. And so I was just Googling some information about that wine, and they say, yeah, the Vesper Martini made famous or made known or created from James Bond.
Yeah.
That's also very cool. In your first book, you make a cocktail that becomes world renowned.
Yeah. He crushed it. Ian Fleming crushed it in this book.
Yeah, he really, really did.
Just establish one of the top 25 fiction characters of all time, create a cocktail, and just an absolute page turner.
And 200 pages.
Love it.
200 pages. Like, that is insane to me that he did that in 200 pages too.
It's a great book. All right. Well, you want to give me a rating or want me to lead off with a rating? I don't want to influence you.
Yeah, you go ahead, because I was playing around with numbers in my head. You go.
I'll go 8.8. 8.8.
Yeah. Okay, I was going 8.2. 8.2 is in my head, and you didn't change me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was between 8, 8.7, 8.6, and I was like, let me just give it the highest score. It was a fun read. I'll give a little bit of a bump for when it's a quick read, especially if we're turning these around on a weekly basis.
Yeah, yep.
And here's the thing: I think you can recommend quick reads a lot easier than you can recommend.
Oh yeah,
100-page book.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much common knowledge.
Most people will not like will look at a book and the intimidation factor of a large book, like they won't jump into it. It's just too much of a commitment.
Just like, hey, check out first James Bond, a quick read, fits in your back pocket. Yeah.
You read it on like 2 or 3, like if you have a week commute on a train or a bus or something like that, you're done with that in a couple of days.
It's done by Wednesday.
It's done by Wednesday. Yeah, Monday through Wednesday, sure. If you're on the beach, if that's a beach read for you, you're done with that by your second day on the beach or something like that, because it's not just short, but it's fun and quick.
Beach is interesting because this might be the most beachy read of the
series that we've been taking.
Yeah,
I think so. I'm trying to think of the other ones so far. For the time frame aspect of a quick read that you throw in the bag, I think it could be up there.
Yeah, it's a little schlocky, but again, I don't know if he intended it that way. It kind of evolved that way over time. But it's fun, it's authentic, it's good, it's well written.
You miss a couple pages if you're doing other things and you miss a couple pages, you're not going to miss the whole story. But like what you said, like there's a couple of scenes where you're locked in, just because of the way it reads and the way it's written.
And so many people have seen the movie that you can be like, I'm in it. Like this is
awesome. Running the movie through while you're watching those scenes, and even if you know what's upcoming,
awesome. All right, got anything else cooking? Want to do not much of the Yankees, Giants stink.
Yeah, sports are not fun right now. What about like upcoming, setting the scene for what we're doing next?
All right, let's do upcoming. Wait 1 second.
I think we got Plum Island. I think we have Band of Brothers. I think we have Firm.
And then we have Killing Jesus. And then
Killing Jesus. Got it. Yeah.
Have you started with Plum Island?
How are you going with like the timing of it all? So I am done with Plum Island. I'm currently reading Band of Brothers and The Firm right now.
Holy smokes.
How are you with it?
I try to stay a book ahead, and I was a book ahead. I'm reading
Plum Island. Plum Island I've read more than once also, so I kind of flew through that.
All right. Well, do you want to take? I'm 25% in through Plum Island. So,
okay.
No,
I like the way we're going. I like how we're going and how we're moving along with it.
Yeah. So let's just keep on a weekly basis. If I need to take a week, we'll take a week.
I don't think so the way it's set up, but I was never a person who would read 2 things at once. But because of this little podcast, little chat group, it's becoming much easier for some reason. I don't know why.
To read multiple things at once?
Yeah.
A lot of it determines on what's available at the library Kindle form for me.
Part of it for me also, but just reading these 2, like last night, right? Like I didn't want to read Band of Brothers before bed because then I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
If I'm reading about like horrible World War II stuff, then I'm gonna have dreams about that. I'm not sleeping, so I switched off, started reading The Firm, and that was much easier.
How's The Firm? Is The Firm good? Are you liking it?
I'm 20 pages in.
Okay. Little hint, next episode, teaser, loving Plum Island.
Yeah.
John Corey might be the American James Bond. I'm like, this guy, we should have so many movies of this guy.
I didn't think we meant to do this, picking them back to back. I didn't think we planned for that.
It's perfect.
That is brilliant that we did so, because yes, that is the American like new age James Bond. I did not put that together.
Our brilliant stupidity shining through.
Just like real quick, like he goes to the bar, he doesn't order a Vesper martini, he orders a Budweiser.
He orders a Budweiser, and then we'll get into it next week.
Yeah, we'll get
a million nachos, a million wings, a million like tater tots, like the worst food imaginable.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm excited.
Like, we have the chili. Go. Yeah, I'll take the chili too.
We did not plan this out, but that is a perfect follow-up book to the James Bond. Actually,
I know. I'm like, how? Maybe they made a miniseries like in the 80s of this book or whatever, or the 90s.
I'm nervous if they do. I'm so nervous because they are not going to cast it and write it the way it needs to be done.
Oh, it's so good.
I know.
I never heard. Again, we're going to Plum Island next week. If you can tell, we're very excited to talk about it.
Very excited.
Okay. So next week, Plum Island. like you said, Band of Brothers, Following the Firm, and then we have Killing Jesus locked in 4 weeks from now. Take it any direction you want. 2 books I have written down are just
let's leave it with the 4 for now, and then we'll add another one at the next one.
Cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. There's a lot with those 4. There's a lot going on, and I kind of want to maybe start thinking about what fits in, because we just lucked into Casino Royale after Plum Island, but maybe we could fit in,
a theme.
Not even a theme, but just Casino Royale to Plum Island is a perfect transition.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
Because I was originally thinking let's go like fiction, nonfiction, kind of back and forth, but maybe there's another way that we can kind of design it and fit them in.
Love it. That's an awesome idea. I'm totally in for that.
Cool.
How you guys holding up with daylight savings?
Yeah. Well, actually, knock on wood. Yeah. This morning has been good, but that sucked. The first night went well. So the first night it was, oh, wow, she got the extra hour. Awesome. But then after that, it was a full hour earlier every morning.
I thought what is almost worse, we kind of threw it now, was the bedtime, because he thinks that 6:30 is, or he thinks that 6 is 7 o'clock. So, or he thinks that, he thinks that
6 feels like 7.
Feels like 7. So he's so fussy and so tired. And just the last hour, you're like, all right, we made it through the day. Let's go. And he's just like, put me to bed right now. And like, dude, you got to stay up for a little bit.
Daylight savings is ridiculous.
We got to end it.
I thought we were going to 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I remember being extremely excited playing golf like the day before like the clocks turned back and thinking to myself, thank God this is the last time. Because now it's dark at 4:30. Meanwhile, the days are still like nice enough where you can play golf. Throw into it now that kids' cycles get screwed up. And another factor, which I hate, they've said like you do it because people are driving in the morning and avoids accidents, whatever. I've definitely almost gotten into more accidents with the sun being in my eyes than I was driving in the dark.
Also, I have a lukewarm take that commuting is going to be so different in 10 years with all these driverless cars. I think it's going to be like, I think you're going to be like a neighborhood.
Honestly, the driving in the dark is it's a non-factor. The harder part, I'm not kidding, is when I'm driving at 7:30 in the morning and I'm getting on the highway, the sun is just glaring in your eyes.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, more dangerous than driving in the dark of what would be now like 5:45.
It's one of these stupid things that I think everyone agrees on, but it's been ingrained in our society that we can't switch it.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. Like if I was a politician and you're running on that platform, you're winning.
It feels like a Parks and Rec thing though. Like we're getting rid of daylight saving.
There's got to be something that we're missing also, where it serves some other purpose than just helping drivers in the morning or helping farmers in the middle of the country.
That's what you hear growing up. It helps the farmers.
Farmers, yeah. There's got to be some other purpose that we're missing, where if we don't do this, the Super Bowl is going to be played in like March instead of February. Exactly. Like we screw up a whole month.
I don't know. But I had no idea that it affected kids this much, because you never hear that, obviously, when you're going through school and you're in college.
Yeah, I reached out to a bunch of people just in group chats. They were like, "Oh yeah, it's a bummer."
I said to a guy at work who's got kids just a little bit older than Thomas, and he was like, "Hey, your kids screwed up by daylight savings?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm getting absolutely crushed." I'm like, how is this a thing? No one told me.
That's what, I knew it for the reasons, like me personally. Like personally, I always do get like a little seasonal, I guess you call it seasonal depression.
Yeah.
When you leave the office and it's dark, and you leave for the office and it's dark. So that just like sucks for me. But then for it to suck for an infant also, is like, we gotta get rid of this thing.
The fact that it wasn't talked about, I'm like, how is, I don't know.
Like that's not one of the points people make when they're saying getting rid of it. I'm absolutely doing so.
Yeah, it wasn't in the parenting handbook they hand you at the when you leave the hospital. Watch out for daylight savings in November.
Well, because when you do it, they're like you're like training them on like a sun cycle, right? Like you're trying to
More or
get
less,
them
yeah.
to know that when the sun goes down, it's bedtime. Now we get home from daycare. She's passed out from a nap. She wakes up and it's dark. That's gonna fuck with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hopefully we're through it because we're what now? Like 2 weeks now, I guess. 2 weeks into it. I think we might be through it. Again, knock on wood. It's 5:45 right now. I'll let you know at 7 if she sleeps till then.
Yeah. All right. We strongly liked. I don't know if we go loved, but we really, really liked Casino Royale. I gave it
So much so that we're probably going to add a few more Ian Flemings.
I fully support that. I gave it an 8.8. You gave it an 8.2.
8.2.
All right, and we got Plum Island next week, and get ready for maybe a couple themes, maybe a category book selections coming up.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
sounds good. So Plum Island, and then we'll add another one to the list after next week.
How many times have you read Plum Island?
2.
Okay. Speaking of things I've never heard of, Plum Island.
But it's one that I so the first time I read it, it was a library book, and then I liked it so much that I bought it.
Yeah.
So I read it a second time, but then every time I refer it to somebody, which is often, I've flipped through it several times. Let's say that.
Yeah. I'm very eager to get to next week and talk about it.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Have a good one, dude.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.